Hello everyone. In my first lecture of environmental science, we discussed about the atmosphere. We talked about the environment and how we can keep our environment clean so that we can have a better future, so that our next generations can lead a better life. In the last session, we also discussed about the environmental pollution, which is possibly the biggest threat to the human being, to the whole living system. So, if we want a brighter future, we need to take care of our environment. So, today we will talk about the pollution. We have seen that the pollution occurs when the harmful substances contaminate our air, or the water, or soil, or our surroundings. It is mainly caused by the human activities like industrialization, deforestation, overuse of the fossil fuels, and careless waste disposal. So there are different types of pollutions, like air pollution, which is coming from the vehicles, factories, industries, burning fuels, and this pollution can lead to the smog and respiratory disease and global warming. So water pollution comes from the dumping of plastics, sewage, chemicals from the industries, chemicals from the laboratories, and they are going to the rivers. They are polluting the water, ocean of the water, and they can threaten the marine life, and they are making the water unsafe to drink. So other pollutions like soil pollution, noise pollution, light pollution, radiation pollution all disturb the environment. So we need to take care all of them. The consequences of pollution are severe. It can cause climate change. It can cause health problems. It can also cause like the loss of biodiversity and the destruction of natural ecosystems. What we need to take care. If we don't act now, the future generations will face an even more polluted and dangerous world. But there is hope. By using renewable energy, reducing waste, recycling, and conserving the water and planting trees, we can help reduce pollution. Protecting the environment is not just a responsibility, it's the necessity for our survival. Let's work together to keep our planet clean and healthy. So in the world, the most polluted countries are like Chad, which is an African country. So the next one is Bangladesh. We can also see that the third country is Pakistan. The fourth is Democratic Republic of Congo. And the fifth one is our country, India. So on that Tajikistan, Nepal, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Nigeria, Egypt, Iraq, Iran, all these countries are in the top rank of polluted countries. So they all need to take care of their health, and they can only take care of their health if they can take care of their environment. So we need to study this environmental pollution so that we can have a better future. So here is the list of the most polluted cities in the world. The first one is the city from India, and also the second one is Delhi, the city from India, the capital city of India. And the third one is from Kazakhstan. And also like this, we can also see some of the cities from Pakistan and also Bangladesh, like Dhaka, from Chad, from Iraq. All these cities are highly polluted. So they need to study more about this environmental science so that they know how to purify this air quality, how to maintain the air quality good. So how they can have a better environment. So we need to study our this subject, which is environmental science or EVS, so that we can have or we can generate a better future for our next generation. So we can see that. So the left one is, I can say, the pointer. So this is the highly polluted situation of Delhi, and here this is when it is clean, when we don't have any smog. So now nowadays the government is also taking steps so that we can make the clean environment. So they have written here the keep Delhi clean. So here, so this is the some like the different regions photo of Lahore from Pakistan. So this is also highly polluted. So you can see that this is completely like invisible, or we cannot see through this atmosphere like even 100-meter distance. So here, this is the city from Bangladesh or Dhaka. So they also have big problem of this pollution. Next is so what is pollution? So pollution is something which contaminate the environment. So pollution can also alter the surroundings unwantedly, and it can decrease the quality of the air, water, or soil. So it can affect the health of human or animals and plants. So this, if we see that, then we can call, so this is the pollution. And what are the pollutants? The pollutants are the materials which actually cause the pollution. So what are the reasons for pollution? So the regions here, some of the regions are listed here. We can see that the tremendous uncontrolled growth of human populations, the rapid industrialization, rapid urbanization, deforestation, the radio activities. So here, we can see that. So in the last 5 years, we see that many forests have been cut down to build new buildings, to build a new town. So this type of activities are actually hampering the ecosystem of our life, the ecosystem of the environment. So before building a new industry or before building a new city, we need to think the future. So if we cut the tree, so what will be the effect of this? So we can take care, we can take the measures so that we should not have any more trouble in the future. So here are the types of pollutants. So there are basically two types of pollutants: biodegradable pollutants and non-biodegradable pollutants. So what are biodegradable pollutants? So biodegradable pollutants are those who actually can be decomposed rapidly by the natural process into simpler, harmless, and simpler, like the mono unit substances in due course of time. So, the domestic waste, the garbages, urine, sewage, agricultural residue, paper, wood, so they can be degradable by the natural process. So, they are all called biodegradable pollutants. We can also have some non-biodegradable pollutants, so which actually they do not decompose rapidly by the natural process. So basically, like the plastics or the polythene bags, insecticides, pesticides, mercury, lead, or arsenic, so they all are non-biodegradable pollutants. They are basically very, 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 very harmful for our natural systems. Now, the different types of pollutions are listed here. So that we have already talked about in the previous slides, but here in detail. So we see that some pollution are in the air. So these pollutions are actually basically called air pollution, water pollution. We can also have soil pollution, marine pollution, noise pollution, thermal pollution, nuclear pollution, or nuclear hazards. So here we will discuss each of them in detail. The first one is air pollution. So air pollution basically contaminates the atmospheric air which we need for our for our daily life. So we inhale oxygen, or we inhale air with the oxygen, that oxygen we need for our living. So if the air is contaminated by the smog, by the dust, by the carbon dioxide, too much of carbon dioxide, then we cannot live in peace, we cannot live a better life. So we need to think about all this pollution so that we can purify the air and to make our environment clean. So this pollution is injurious to the living organism. So most of the air pollutant present in the troposphere, which is basically the lowest layer of our atmosphere. Now every person breathes approximately like 22,000 times per day and inhale 15 to 20 kg of air daily. So we can think that if we cannot keep our environment clean, so we will be in trouble. So the sources of air pollution are basically, we have two kinds of sources: natural sources, that is that is by the nature itself. Sometimes like we have conflagration, that is the burning of the forest, so that we actually cannot help. So because sometimes it is the natural problems that we have this type of source of pollutions, and some are the human made. So we are basically like burning plastics, burning tires, and we are doing something which creates the air pollution. So here are some of the regions of these natural sources. Like first one is volcanic eruption, the conflagration, or that is the forest fires. The C is biological decay. D is radioactive materials. The second one that I was telling, that is the man-made activities like thermal power plants. vehicular emission, the fossil fuel burnings, agricultural activities, or smoking. So we can easily control these pollutions, which are basically man-made pollutions, so that our air, our atmosphere will be clean, will will be clean. Okay, so here the classification of air pollutants. So the primary pollutants and secondary pollutants. So usually the primary pollutants are substances directly emitted from the process. So examples like ash from the volcanic eruption, the carbon monoxide gas from the motor vehicle. So this type of exhaust. So we need to, if we can filter this the gases which are coming out of the vehicle, so we can also minimize this air pollution. And the secondary pollutants are not emitted directly, so these are called secondary pollutants. And basically, so they form in the air when the primary pollutants react each other and or interact each other, so they create this type of secondary pollutants. For example, the ground level ozone is prominent example of the secondary pollutant. So ozone is can actually deplete into oxygen and radical uh, like O dot. So this O dot can like react with other component of the air, and it can create these secondary pollutants. So here we can see that this the air pollution, so which is basically this volcanic eruption. We can see that something is coming out from the industry, and there is carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitric oxide, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide. And when they are basically like coming to the contact of water, they are also like forming sulfurous acid or sulfuric acid or carbonic acid. So these are the secondary pollutants. Or so sulfur dioxide, when it is coming to the contact of oxygen, it creates sulfur trioxide. Or when this carbon dioxide comes to the contact with water, it creates carbonic acid. Or it can also, like all these primary pollutants can create the secondary pollutants. So these are how it's made. So we need to take care of everything. uh, so here is the indoor air pollutants. So what are the sources or what are the reasons for that? So the radon gas, so which is emitted from the building material like bricks, concrete, tiles, etc. The burning of fuels in the kitchen, cigarette smoke liberates the pollutants like carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, all these things. So these are all danger. So if we don't take care of them, we cannot purify our air. Air pollutants may exist in two different forms, namely gases and particulates. So the gases like sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, or nitric oxide and its derivatives, hydrogen sulfide, ozone, so they actually cause pollution. And particulates like dust, smoke, smog, asbestos, lead dust, polynuclear aromatic hydrocarbon, all these things, particulates. So here are the common air pollutants and what are their sources and their effects. So first one is carbon monoxide. The properties of carbon monoxide here, basically carbon monoxide is a colorless gas and it is also odorless, but it is very toxic. So what are the effects? So it is injurious to human and animal health. And the sources is the 77% of the carbon monoxide gases in the air actually comes from the motor vehicles, so mainly petrol engine vehicles and cigarette smoking, industrial source, automobile exhaust gases. So here are the human sources. So incomplete combustion of fossil fuel, power plants. So what are the human health effects due to carbon monoxide? So carbon monoxide actually can bind with the hemoglobin from our blood. So it can form the carboxyhemoglobin, so which is very much fatal to our body. So it can actually inactivate the hemoglobin which carries the oxygen from the lungs to the cell, or thereby, so we need to filter this carbon monoxide so that it cannot contaminate the air. So it can also cause headache, anemia. So at the high level of carbon dioxide, it leads to coma or even death. So environmental effect, like it can increase the global temperature, so which is a serious threat to the next gas is sulfur dioxide. So it is a colorless and irritating gas. So it can be formed from the burning of coal and oil. So it is converted to the sulfurous acid when it comes to the contact of acid rain or water. And here are some human sources. Like the power plants can contribute to the 88% of it. Industrial process also can generate 10% of sulfur dioxide of the atmosphere. So here are some health effects. So it can create breathing problems even for the healthy people. It can cause eye irritation, throat problem, cardiac disease to the human. Some environmental effects include like damage to the agriculture, chlorophyll destruction, sulfurous acid in acid rain damage trees, plants, soil, aquatic life. Like sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide is also harmful for the atmosphere. So it is also a colorless and odorless greenhouse gas. It can be formed from the combustion of fossil fuels, woods, etc., or the cement production. And here are some human resources, the human sources. The respiratory process also cause the carbon dioxide gas production. Some power plants also can cause carbon dioxide gas production. The health effects, so that it cause the respiratory disease or the respiratory disorders. It can also cause the suffocation. So the some of the environmental effects include like it can increase the temperature of the climate. So each degree Celsius rise in the temperature caused due to the carbon dioxide levels could cause about 1,000 deaths. The gas boosts concentration of surface ozone particles and carcinogens, all of which are harmful to human health. Here the next gas is ozone, so which is highly reactive. This is also irritating gas, unpleasant odor. It forms in the troposphere and it is a major component in the smog. So the human sources include like nitrogen oxides, volatile organic compounds, or VOC. So health and environmental effects include like skin cancer in animals and humans. Like it causes lung infection, destruction of the life in the earth. It moderates the climate. Next is sulfur trioxide. The oxidation of sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere in presence of oxygen can create sulfur trioxide. Even 1 ppm of sulfur trioxide in the air causes breathing problem, and also it can cause the irritation to the respiratory tract. So next one is the hydrogen sulfide. It can like its smell is like the rotten egg. So hydrogen sulfide enters into the atmosphere as the pollutant through the decomposition of sewage waste or the organic matter from the various industries. It is poisonous and it blackens the lead paints and it causes the corrosion of metals. So nitrogen oxide, like nitrous oxide, nitric oxide, nitrogen dioxide. So what are the sources of these gases? The combustion of fossil fuel. It can create the nitrogen oxide derivatives, all these gases. So acid manufacture, the explosive industries, so acid packing plants, so high temperature combination of nitrogen and oxygen. So here are some health and environmental effects of these nitrogen oxides. The human respiratory tract irritation can be caused due to this type of gases. So it can damage the plants. It can cause the eye irritation. The reaction of hydrocarbon under sunlight forms smog. So it produces ozone. The formation of nitric acid causes acid rain problems. So what is smog? The smog, we can see that the name itself is telling it is the combination of the smoke and fog. So it is also called as the London smog. The smog which is normally happened in the morning hours during the winter when the humidity is very high. The smog is a kind of air pollution. So commonly occur in the industrial urban areas. So analysis of the smog indicates that so it is mainly due to the presence of sulfur dioxide along with the particulates like the particles which are floating in the air, sulfur dioxide oxide gases with the sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere, and it can also like combine with some acid and it can form the aerosol. So here are the health effects of smog. So it can create breathing problems, cough, heart diseases, and it can also affect our eye, nose, and throat irritation. The environmental effects include like the ozone depletion. So if the ozone is depleted, then it can also create the problem of our atmosphere because ozone like protect us from the UV radiation. So it can also reduce the visibility. It can damage plants and trees. The photochemical smog is basically produced when the pollutants from the combustion of fossil fuels react with the sunlight. The energy in the sunlight converts the pollutants into other toxic chemicals. So in order for photochemical smog to form, so there must be other pollutants in the air, specifically nitrogen oxides or this other nitrogen oxide derivatives like nitrogen dioxide, nitric oxide, or any other derivative. When they are coming to the contact of any other particles or any other like the aerobic floating elements, so they create this volatile, they can also come to the contact with the volatile organic compounds, and they can create this type of smog. So when nitrogen oxides and these like volatile organic compounds interact with sunlight, secondary pollutants are formed, what we have already discussed in the previous slides, like the ozone and the peroxyacetyl nitrate or PAN. They can react to each other, and they can form the secondary pollutants. So these secondary pollutants are what we have been calling the photochemical smog. So you might think, hey, isn't it the ozone good for protecting our atmosphere? Well, it is, but only at the level of high above the surface. But when ozone is near humans, it can cause the serious problems with our lungs and vision. So PAN is one of the chemical that is responsible for the damaging lung tissue. So it is a toxic mixture of nitrogen dioxide, troposphere, ozone, volatile organic compounds, and peroxyacetyl nitrate. So all these chemicals are highly reactive and oxidizing substances. They are creating chemically reducing atmosphere. So here is the photochemical reaction. So we can see that. So first, the radical. So with the hydrocarbon radical, it can react with the oxygen which is present in the air, and it can generate this peroxo radical. So this peroxo radical, it can react with the nitric oxide, and it can generate the nitrogen dioxide, and it can also create this oxo radical. This is nitrogen dioxide, and also like react with the O, which is coming from the depletion of the ozone, and again it can create the ozone, or it can also create like the synthesis. It can also synthesize the nitric oxide back. And now this oxide radical also can react with the alkane, which is also present in the air, and it can create the alcohol. So this is the reaction that the alkane reacts with oxygen, and it can form the ozone plus alcohol. So the next is the toxic metal, the heavy metal lead. So it is solid. It can emit particulates. So the lead particles, if the amount of lead particles is more in the air, it causes problems. The human sources for lead, the paint. So we also use the paint for painting our buildings, or also we can use the paint for painting the architectural paintings or all these things. So these paints are the smelters, the storage batteries, and leaded petrols. And these, so leaded petrol contains tetraethyl lead. So after combustion, this lead is coming out from these vehicles. So all these things create like causes the excess amount of lead particles in the air. So here are some health effects. So it can damage brain, and it can also create the whole nervous system troubles. So the mental retardation, the digestive problems, so cancer in the test animals. So all these are the effects of the lead toxicity. The environmental effects like the wildlife destruction. So here next we will talk about the acid rain. So the normal rain water is always highly acidic in nature, because in the air we have carbon dioxide, and when this carbon dioxide comes to the contact with water, it forms carbonic acid, H2CO3. Likewise, if the sulfur dioxide also comes to the contact with water, it can also create sulfurous acid. So all these things, when they are like coming to the contact with the rain, which is so in principle the rain should be the water, but all due to all these gases, our rain is not the only water, but it contains too many like the pollutants, like all this carbonic acid or sulfur acid or any other particulates. So it creates acid rain, and which basically hampers our ecosystem. So as we were discussing in the last slide, that the formation and the causes of acid rain is due to the presence of all these gases. The Sulfur trioxide also can react with water to form sulfuric acid. Nitrogen dioxide also can react with water to form nitric acid, similarly to the SO2 and NO2. The effects of acid rain. So this acid rain increases the acidity of the rainwater, so which is not very healthy to the aquatic life. So it can damage the freshwater life. So in the form of mist, it causes direct damage to the plants. So it causes irritation to the eyes and mucous membrane. So it can accelerate the rate of corrosion of metals. It can cause the damage of building block. It can dissolve the salt in the soil like calcium carbonate, magnesium carbonate and metal, which passes into the ponds, lakes, river, and it can cause the toxic effects to the aquatic life. In 1970s, scientists noticed that the ozone layer in the atmosphere above Antarctica was thinning. So here from the picture we can see that. So the largest hole in the ozone layer ever observed in 2006. So here, if we don't take care of our atmosphere, then ozone layer, which actually protect us from the UV radiation, so they cannot protect us anymore, and we will have more skin cancer or any other problems. So scientists find out that the chlorofluorocarbons which are used in the refrigerator or in the air condition, so they actually can deplete the ozone gas, and so they can create this problem. So these chlorofluorocarbons are basically a group of like chlorofluorocompounds, so that we will discuss in the later slides. So since these type of compounds create problem, or they actually can react with the ozone layer, so they restrict the use of this chlorofluorocarbon. So under UV irradiation, oxygen can be cleaved into the atomic oxygen. So the O2 under UV radiation, it can create O plus O. Now O2 can react with O to form this ozone gas, what is O3. But again, this chlorofluorocarbon molecule so can undergo dissociation to form this chlorine radical and the CF2Cl dot. The Cl dot again reacts with ozone, which can generate the ClO dot plus oxygen. The ClO dot again reacts with this O to form this chlorine dot and oxygen. So this chlorine dot again can react with the ozone to form this oxygen and ClO dot. So it can give a like a chain reaction to deplete this ozone. So which is very alarming to the daily life, because if we cannot protect our ozone layer, so we will be in trouble due to this skin cancer or any other skin problems. So not only skin, some other problems will also appear due to this the thin ozone layer. The next problem of our atmosphere is the greenhouse effect. So what is greenhouse effect? The greenhouse effect is the trapping of heat by the gases in the atmosphere, which causes the increase of the temperature in the world. So the naturally occurring greenhouse gases are the water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, and also some sulfur dioxide gases. And greenhouse gases that are not naturally occurring, that these are like hydrofluorocarbons or HFCs, perfluorocarbons, PFCs, and sulfur hexafluoride or SF6. The greenhouse effect on the Earth. The Earth's atmosphere is slightly warmer than what it should be due to the direct solar heating because of the mild case of the greenhouse effect. So what are the greenhouse effects? So here are some lists. So the ground is heated by the visible and some infrared light from the sun. The heated surface emits the infrared light, and the majority of Earth's atmosphere, like the nitrogen and oxygen, are not basically good greenhouse gas. But the small amount of greenhouse gas, which means that the water or carbon dioxide or sulfur trioxide or sulfur dioxide, so these gases actually absorb and re-emit the infrared irradiation, causing the rise of the temperature of the atmosphere. So this is the simplification of these greenhouse gases. The sun gives us light. So this light is somewhat filtered through this ozone, and then it comes to our direct to the earth, our upper layer. And now, so if these gases are reflected back, then we have less heat. But if some of the things or some of the gases can restrict this like the reflection, or if the heat cannot be reflected from the earth's surface, so they can be stored inside, and the temperature of the earth can constantly rise, which can cause the greenhouse effect. Now, the fact is, over the last 100 years, we have seen the significant amount of the carbon dioxide concentration rise in the atmosphere, which basically can change from the agricultural to the industrial lifestyle. So these gases are coming from the burning of the fossil fuels. So this the increased amount of the carbon dioxide will also due to the cars or the use of too much of vehicles or the factories, and also it is also this the greenhouse gases are coming from the deforestation. And here the effects, like it can cause global warming, it can also melt the polar ice. So like, because sometimes if too much heat, then the ice is melted. So we also see the flood is coming often, which basically due to this global warming. And the warming of oceans means the most powerful storms, and also the aquatic life is hampered due to this greenhouse effect. Now here are the consequences of air pollution. So deaths in the world due to the air pollution is 4.2 million per year. So we can understand how severe is the problem is. So 4.2 million people are dying every year due to this air pollution, due to this smoke, smog, all these things. And even in India, we see that the death of 1.7 million people. So almost like not half, but more than a little less than half people from India are dying due to this air pollution. And diseases which due to the air pollution are the heart disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, lung cancer, acute lower respiratory infection in the children. So all these things are coming from the air pollution. So how can we control the air pollution? So we can use only unleaded petrol. So what the like tetraethyl lead we are using in the fuel, so we can use unleaded petrol that will not release the lead in the air. So we can use the fuels with low ash content and sulfur content. So people should be encouraged to walk, not use too much of vehicles. So vehicles cause the pollution in the air. So not so they can drive, instead they can drive cycle. They should not cut the trees randomly. So we should rather plant more trees and plant in the busy street or in the more industrial area, and the industries or the other factories, so they should properly use the material so that they can create less waste. Even the sixth point is telling about the emission of the carbon dioxide and the hydrocarbons should be catalytically controlled. And the last thing is the secondary pollutants like ozone and pan are controlled by their primary precursor. So if we control the primary precursor, then we can control the secondary precursor, because the secondary pollutants are coming from the primary pollutants. So these measures we need to take so that we can control our air pollution to lead a better life. Controlling air pollution is not that easy. So we can design some equipments to filter our air, so to make our atmosphere better. So some of the devices are already been designed, and they are nowadays used to make the air quality better. So that some we will discuss in this lecture now. So there are generally two types. So control devices for the particulate contaminant and control devices for gaseous contaminant. The choices of the equipment depends upon a number of factors, such as physical and chemical properties of the particles, the particle size, concentration, volume of impurities, the temperature, humidity of the medium, efficiency required. So how much efficiency we need, we can use that equipment and economic consideration. So control devices for particulates include the gravitational settling chamber, electrostatic precipitators, so bag houses for fabric filters, cyclone separator, wet scrubber. So all these things we will discuss in these slides. So here is the picture for the gravitational settling chamber. So we need one chamber like this. So here we can pass the dirty gas, so which will be like here all these particles will be precipitated here, and we can basically release the clean gas through this exit. So this is the design of electrostatic precipitator. So we can pass our gas from the bottom, and since we have some charged particles in the air, so the charged particles will be absorbed by these electroplates, and the purified air will come out from the top. The next one is bag houses, so dry particulates. So we can pass the air from one nozzle, and here the dry particulates will be settled down, and we can simply purify them, just taking out this the black particles from here, and the clean air will be released from the top. So this is bag houses. So here is the design for the cyclones, that we can pass the air here, the dirty air or the polluted air, and here we can make a cyclone, so which is basically the speed wind like thing. So what are the heavy particles here, they will be basically absorbed, or they will be settled down, and the clean air will be released from the top. So all these devices have been used, and so some of the factories, they are now using also this kind of design, so that they can release some at least cleaner air, not the too much dirty or polluted air. Last one is a wet scrubber. So wet scrubbing is particularly useful for simultaneous removal of reactive gases and the fine particulate matter from the exhaust gases. So in scrubber particulates, vapors, gases are controlled by passing the gas stream through the liquid solution. So they are used on coal burning power plants, so concrete plants. So by this way also we can purify our polluted gas. So this is the wet scrubber design. So here we can see that. So this is we can pass the polluted gas through here, which is first the liquid water tank, and after spraying the liquid through the polluted gas, so some of the particles in the polluted gas, so they can be settled down. So we have also seen that. So after rain, we have the better atmosphere, because rain clears most of the particles from the air. So we see our environment can be cleaner after rain. So by this concept, we can also design this type of wet scrubber. So in this lecture, we have seen the many kinds of environmental pollution, and we have discussed in detail about the air pollution, and also some of the other pollutions like soil pollution, water pollution. And so we also have seen, so what are the reasons for this pollution, and what we can do to reduce this pollution to make our life better. So thank you for joining for this lecture, and in the next class we will discuss about some other pollution. Thank you.